The gunshot echoed across the plains as Willa Zimmer ran, one hand cradling her swollen belly, the other clutching her tattered shawl. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she stumbled through the tall grass, the setting sun of 1875 Montana casting long shadows that seemed to reach for her like the fingers of the law she was desperately fleeing. Adam Lawson heard the shot while mending fences on the western edge of his property. Standing 6 feet tall with shoulders hardened from years of ranch work, he shielded his eyes against the dying sunlight. His weathered Stetson hat cast a shadow across his tanned face as he scanned the horizon. At 32, he'd seen enough trouble to know when it was heading his way. There a figure moving frantically through the grass, followed by the distant silhouette of riders. Adam untied his horse from the fence post and swung into the saddle, urging the chestnut mare forward. As he approached, he saw it was a woman, her dress mud-splattered and torn, her blonde hair falling loose from what had once been a tidy bun. Most striking was her condition, clearly with child and near her time. "Help me," she gasped as he approached, her blue eyes wild with fear. "Please, they'll take me back." In the distance, Adam could make out 3 riders, one wearing a sheriff's badge that caught the last rays of sunlight. Without hesitation, he extended his hand down to her. "Come on," he said firmly, pulling her up behind him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, her pregnant belly pressing against his back. "They'll search your property," she warned, her voice breaking. Adam set his jaw as he turned his horse toward his cabin. "You'll have protection here," he promised, feeling her trembling against him. "I give you my word." He rode hard toward the small valley where his cabin and barn stood, nestled between 2 sloping hills that provided natural shelter from both the elements and prying eyes. As they approached, he could see smoke rising from the chimney his ranch hand Pablo must have started the evening fire. "Pablo," Adam called as they reached the yard. The middle-aged Mexican man emerged from the barn, taking in the situation with a quick glance. "Trouble, senor." "We've got company coming. Take her inside," Adam instructed, helping the woman dismount. "I'll deal with the sheriff." "Thank you," she whispered, her face pale with exhaustion and fear. "My name is Willa Zimmer." "Adam Lawson," he replied. "We'll talk after I send them on their way." Pablo gently guided Willa toward the cabin while Adam turned his horse to face the approaching riders. The thunder of hooves grew louder as 3 men crested the hill. Adam recognized Sheriff Harlan Davis from the town of Pine Ridge, a man whose reputation for being in the pocket of wealthy ranchers was well known. "Evening, Sheriff," Adam called, keeping his tone neutral as the men reined in their horses. "Lawson," the sheriff acknowledged with a curt nod. His eyes scanned the property. "We're tracking a fugitive, woman blonde about 5'5", expecting a child." His gaze settled on Adam's cabin where smoke curled from the chimney. "Seen anyone matching that description?" Adam adjusted his position, subtly blocking the direct path to his home. "Can't say that I have. What's she wanted for?" The sheriff's deputy, a weasel-faced man with tobacco-stained teeth, spat on the ground. "Killed her husband, shot him while he slept, cold as ice." The third man, dressed in expensive clothes that marked him as no ordinary posse member, leaned forward in his saddle. "She's confused, Mr. Lawson. My sister-in-law has had difficulties since becoming with child. We just want to bring her home safely." Adam studied the well-dressed man. "And you are Victor Hammond. The deceased was my brother, Edward Hammond." The Hammond name carried weight in Montana territory, old money, vast landholdings, and political connections that stretched back east. Adam had heard of their ruthlessness in business dealings. "Well, Mr. Hammond, I haven't seen your sister-in-law," Adam replied evenly, "but if I do, I'll be sure to bring her into town myself, safely." Sheriff Davis narrowed his eyes. "You wouldn't be harboring a fugitive, would you, Lawson? That's a hanging offense." "I know the law, Sheriff." Adam met his gaze unflinchingly. "Feel free to look around if you don't trust my word." The sheriff glanced at Hammond, who gave a slight nod. "We'll have a quick look at your property, if you don't mind." "Not at all," Adam said, dismounting, "though I'd appreciate if you'd respect my home." "No need to disturb my evening meal." The 3 men spread out, checking the barn and corral. Adam's heart pounded as Sheriff Davis approached the cabin, but he maintained his composed exterior. Pablo emerged from the cabin door, carrying an armload of firewood. "Evening, Sheriff," Pablo said with a respectful nod. "Can I help you with something?" The sheriff peered past Pablo into the cabin. From his angle, he could see only the main room with its simple furnishings. "Anyone else in there?" "Just preparing supper," Pablo replied calmly. "The boss likes his meals on time." After a tense moment, Davis stepped back. "We'll continue our search elsewhere. But Lawson," he added with a pointed look, "if you see this woman, remember where your loyalties should lie. The Hammonds have long memories." Adam nodded but said nothing. He watched as the three riders departed, waiting until they disappeared over the ridge before hurrying to the cabin. Inside, he found Willa sitting at his table, her face ashen, hands protectively covering her belly. "They're gone," he assured her, "but they'll be back." "Now I think you owe me the truth." Willa looked up at him, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't kill anyone," she whispered. "Edward, my husband, is very much alive." Adam pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Then why is his brother claiming you murdered him?" "Because Victor wants me gone," she said, her voice steadying. "And my child with me. When Edward married me, a schoolteacher with no family or fortune, Victor was furious. He expected Edward to marry someone who would bring more wealth to the family." "And where is Edward now?" Adam asked. Willa's face crumpled. "He's in Denver on business. Victor waited until he was gone, then came to the house claiming Edward had been injured in an accident. When we arrived at the doctor's office, there were men waiting. They held me while Victor told me that if I disappeared, no one would look for me if I didn't." She shuddered. "He said they would make sure the baby never drew breath." Adam's jaw tightened, and the sheriff paid handsomely, I'm sure. "I managed to escape when they were taking me to a cabin outside of town. I've been running for 2 days. She looked down at her swollen abdomen. "The baby's due in less than a month." Adam rose and walked to the fireplace, staring into the flames as he considered her story. It had the ring of truth. He'd heard enough about the Hammonds to believe they were capable of such deception and cruelty. "You can stay here," he decided, turning back to face her. "At least until we can contact your husband." Relief washed over her face. "Thank you. I'll find a way to repay you, I promise." "No need," Adam replied. "I've never been one to stand by while the powerful prey on the defenseless." He glanced toward the window. "But you should know this won't be the end of it. The Hammonds don't give up easily." "Neither do I," Willa said with unexpected firmness. "Not when it comes to protecting my child." Adam felt a surge of admiration for her courage. "Pablo," he called to his ranch hand, "prepare the back room for Mrs. Zimmer. And tomorrow, we'll need to move the cattle to the north pasture farther from the main road." As Pablo nodded and moved to prepare the room, Adam returned his attention to Willa. "You should rest. You're safe for tonight." Willa reached out impulsively and took his hand. "Why are you helping me?" "You don't know me." Adam was momentarily caught off guard by the warmth of her touch. "Let's just say I've seen what happens when good people do nothing in the face of injustice." That night, as Willa slept in his spare room, Adam sat by the window, rifle across his lap, watching the moonlit landscape. His thoughts drifted to the woman under his roof, her determination despite her fear, the quiet dignity in her bearing. There was something about her that stirred protective instincts he hadn't known he possessed. Dawn broke with a gentle rain pattering against the cabin roof. Adam had dozed in his chair but woke instantly when he heard movement in the kitchen. He found Willa there, attempting to prepare breakfast despite her obvious fatigue. "You should be resting," he said, moving to take the skillet from her hands. "I won't be a burden," she replied firmly. "If I'm staying here, I'll do my part." Adam studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough, but today you rest. Tomorrow is soon enough to establish routines." After breakfast, Adam outlined his plan. "My property extends into those hills," he said, pointing westward through the window. "There's a line shack about 4 miles from here where the terrain is rough enough that casual riders won't stumble upon it. I think you should stay there until we can send word to your husband." "How will we contact Edward?" Willa asked. "Victor will be watching the telegraph office, and I don't even know exactly where in Denver he's staying. I have a friend who makes regular supply runs to Denver. Marcus Jennings, he's trustworthy. He can ask discreetly about Edward Hammond's whereabouts. Relief flooded Willa's features. When will he go next? He's due to leave tomorrow. In the meantime, Adam continued, we need to make it appear that you've moved on from here. Pablo and I will create a false trail leading north toward the Canadian border. As Adam spoke, Pablo entered the cabin. Riders coming, he announced grimly. Not the sheriff this time, 4 men heavily armed. Adam grabbed his rifle. Hammond's not wasting any time. Pablo, take Mrs. Zimmer to the root cellar. Stay there until I come for you. Willa hesitated, clearly reluctant to hide while Adam faced danger on her behalf. Please, Adam urged. If they find you, all this will be for nothing. She nodded and followed Pablo to the trapdoor hidden beneath a rug in the corner of the kitchen. As they disappeared below, Adam positioned himself by the window, watching as the riders approached. These men weren't lawmen, they were hired guns, their expressions hard, weapons displayed prominently. Adam recognized one of them as Jake Tanner, a notorious gunslinger rumored to have killed a dozen men. Taking a deep breath, Adam stepped onto the porch, rifle held casually but ready. Morning, gentlemen. Something I can help you with. Tanner, a tall man with cold eyes and a knife scar running down one cheek, urged his horse forward. We're looking for a woman. Blonde, pretty, carrying a child. Hammond's offering a substantial reward for information. Hammond, Adam feigned ignorance, the rancher from Pine Ridge. Don't play dumb, Lawson, another rider called out. Sheriff Davis told us he visited you yesterday. Adam shrugged. The sheriff did come by. I told him then what I'll tell you now. I haven't seen any pregnant woman running through my property. Tanner's eyes narrowed. Mind if we look around? For a share of that reward, you wouldn't object, would you? Actually, I would, Adam replied, his tone hardening. Sheriff Davis already searched my property. I don't know what kind of authority you think you have, but this is private land. One of the other men spat on the ground. We don't need authority, we got these. He patted the revolver at his hip. Adam raised his rifle slightly, not aiming it directly at anyone yet, but making his meaning clear. I don't want trouble, but this is my home and you weren't invited. The tension thickened as the men exchanged glances, clearly calculating whether Adam was worth killing over the matter. After a long moment, Tanner raised his hand in a gesture of reluctant concession. We'll be moving on, but Hammond's offering $300 for that woman. That's a lot of money to turn down, Lawson. I'm not interested in Hammond's money, Adam replied evenly. As the riders departed, Adam remained on the porch until they were well out of sight. Only then did he return inside to release Willa and Pablo from their hiding place. Willa emerged, visibly shaken. They'll be back, won't they? Probably, Adam acknowledged. Which is why we need to move you to the line shack today, not tomorrow. He turned to Pablo. Ready the pack horse, only essentials, food, bedding, the medical supplies. Medical supplies. Willa questioned. Adam met her gaze directly. In case your time comes before we can reunite you with your husband, I may not be a doctor, but I've helped deliver calves and foals. The principle can't be that different. Despite the gravity of the situation, Willa's lips curved in a small smile. I appreciate your confidence, Mr. Lawson, but I assure you there's quite a difference. An hour later, they set out for the line shack, taking a circuitous route to avoid leaving an obvious trail. Adam rode beside Willa, who was mounted on his most gentle mare, while Pablo led the pack horse. The journey was slow, with frequent stops to allow Willa to rest. As they traveled, Adam found himself increasingly drawn to this woman who bore her hardships with such grace. She shared stories of her life before marriage, teaching in a small school in St. Louis, dreaming of seeing more of the world than the confines of city life. How did you meet Edward Hammond? Adam asked as they paused by a stream to rest the horses. Willa's expression softened with memory. He came to St. Louis on business and visited the school to make a donation. He was different from his family, gentler, more thoughtful. We began corresponding after he returned to Montana. She sighed. His family never approved, especially Victor. And your family, gone, she replied simply. My parents died in a fire when I was 16. I had no siblings, no aunts or uncles who could take me in. I finished my education by working as a housekeeper for the school headmistress. Adam nodded, understanding better her vulnerability to the Hammonds' machinations. Without family to defend her, she was an easy target for removal. By late afternoon, they reached the Line shack. It was small but solidly built, with a stone fireplace, a single bed, a table, and 2 chairs. Pablo quickly set about making it more comfortable, building a fire and arranging the supplies they had brought. "It's not much," Adam apologized, "but you'll be safe here." "It's perfect," Willa assured him, looking around with genuine appreciation. "I can't thank you enough for risking so much for a stranger." Adam felt an unexpected warmth at her words. "I'll ride to town tomorrow to find Marcus and send him to Denver. Pablo will stay nearby. He has a camp about half a mile from here where he watches the north herd. If you need anything, fire 2 shots in the air." Before departing, Adam hesitated. "Willa," he said, using her given name for the first time, "I believe your story, but you should know if your husband doesn't come." "He will," she interrupted, her faith evident. "Edward loves this child as much as I do. Once he knows where I am, nothing will keep him away." Adam nodded, hoping for her sake that she was right. "I'll return in 2 days with more supplies. Stay inside as much as possible." As he rode back toward his cabin, Adam's thoughts remained with the brave woman he'd left at the Line shack. There was something about her that had gotten under his skin: her courage, her devotion to her unborn child, the quiet dignity with which she faced adversity. He reminded himself firmly that she was a married woman, awaiting reunion with her husband. His feelings, whatever they might be, were inappropriate and unwelcome. The next morning, Adam rode into Pine Ridge, alert for any sign of Hammond's men or the sheriff. The small town was relatively quiet as he tied his horse outside the general store owned by Marcus Jennings. "Adam." Marcus greeted him warmly. "Didn't expect to see you until the end of the month." "Change of plans," Adam replied, keeping his voice low despite the empty store. "I need a favor, Marcus, a discreet one." Marcus's expression grew serious. "Something to do with those men asking about a pregnant woman," Adam tensed. "What men?" "Hammond's brother and some hired guns. They've been showing her picture around town, offering money for information. Said she's deranged, killed her husband." "It's a lie," Adam said firmly. "Edward Hammond is alive, supposedly in Denver on business. I need you to find him, tell him his wife is in danger." Marcus whistled softly. "You're harboring her, Adam. That's the right thing to do," Adam interrupted. "Will you help?" After a moment's consideration, Marcus nodded. "I leave for Denver tonight. I'll find Hammond if he's there." "Tell no one else," Adam cautioned. "Hammond's brother has the sheriff in his pocket and gunmen searching the countryside." "You can trust me," Marcus assured him. "But Adam, be careful. The Hammonds aren't known for their forgiveness." Adam spent the rest of the day gathering additional supplies, careful not to purchase anything that might suggest he was providing for a pregnant woman. As he was loading his saddlebags outside the mercantile, he felt a presence behind him. Mr. Lawson, what a fortunate encounter. Adam turned to find Victor Hammond standing there, impeccably dressed despite the dusty surroundings. 2 men flanked him, their hands hovering near their weapons. "Mr. Hammond," Adam acknowledged coolly, "something I can help you with." "I believe you can," Hammond replied with a thin smile. "I understand you're a man of principle, Mr. Lawson, someone who values honesty, so I'll be direct. I know you're harboring my sister-in-law." Adam's expression remained neutral. "As I told your men yesterday, I haven't seen any pregnant woman on my property." "Yes, that's what you said." Hammond stepped closer. "Let me be clear about what's at stake. My family has significant investments in this territory. Banks, railroads, politicians all respond to our interests. Your modest ranch could face considerable obstacles if you position yourself as our adversary." "Is that a threat, Mr. Hammond?" "Merely a statement of fact. My brother made an unfortunate match. The woman is clever. She's convinced him that the child she carries is his, when in fact—" Hammond's face twisted with disgust. "Well, let's just say her morals were questionable before she trapped Edward into marriage." Adam felt his temper rising but maintained his composure. "Seems like a family matter, best resolved by family, not hired guns terrorizing a pregnant woman. So you admit you've seen her?" Hammond pounced on the implication. "I admit nothing," Adam replied evenly. "But I do believe that hunting down a woman in her condition reflects poorly on a family of your standing." Hammond's eyes hardened. You're making a mistake, Lawson, one you'll regret deeply. He adjusted his expensive coat. I'll double the reward, $600 to anyone who brings her to me. Perhaps your Mexican hand might find that sum tempting, even if you don't. Pablo has worked my land for 10 years, Adam said coldly. His loyalty isn't for sale. Everyone has a price, Hammond said with certainty. It's simply a matter of finding it. As Hammond and his men walked away, Adam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. The encounter confirmed his fears Hammond wouldn't stop until he found Willa and eliminated what he saw as a threat to the family legacy. Adam completed his purchases quickly and rode out of town, taking a circuitous route back to his property to ensure he wasn't followed. Night was falling as he approached the line shack, and he whistled a signal before coming into view to avoid alarming Willa or Pablo. Pablo emerged from the trees, rifle ready. All quiet, he reported. The senora is well. The baby moves much. She says this is good. Relief washed over Adam. Any sign of Hammond's men? None. I have watched the approaches carefully. Inside the shack, Adam found Willa sitting by the fire, sewing what appeared to be a small gown from fabric Pablo must have provided. She looked up as he entered, her face brightening. Adam, did you find your friend? Will he go to Denver? Marcus leaves tonight, Adam confirmed, setting down his supplies. If Edward's in Denver, Marcus will find him. Willa studied his face. Something else happened. I can see it in your expression. Adam hesitated, then decided she deserved the truth. I encountered Victor Hammond in town. He's increased the reward for information about you, and he's spreading lies. What kind of lies? She asked quietly. He's claiming the child isn't Edward's, Adam said, watching her carefully. That you were involved with someone else before the marriage. Willa's hand moved protectively to her belly, her expression a mixture of outrage and pain. Of course he would say that, anything to discredit me, to give Edward reason to reject both of us. She looked up at Adam, her eyes blazing. This child is Edward's. We were married almost a year before I conceived. Victor knows this. He's simply trying to poison everyone against me. I believe you, Adam assured her, surprising himself with the depth of his conviction. He had known this woman only days, yet he trusted her instinctively. For the next week, Adam divided his time between his normal ranch duties and visiting the line shack. He brought fresh supplies and news from town when he could, always taking different routes and ensuring he wasn't followed. Pablo remained camped near the shack, a silent guardian whose presence allowed Adam to maintain the appearance of normal routine at his ranch. During these visits, Adam found himself increasingly drawn to Willa. Her resilience impressed him, as did her optimism despite her circumstances. She spoke of her plans for the baby, her hopes that this child would grow up knowing both freedom and responsibility. When she smiled, which, surprisingly, was often, her entire face transformed, and Adam found himself looking for ways to elicit that expression. Have you ever been married, Adam? She asked him one evening as they sat by the fire, the autumn night growing cold outside the shack's walls. No, he answered, poking at the embers. Came close once, about 7 years ago. Sarah was her name, daughter of a rancher near Helena. What happened? Adam shrugged. Her father lost his land in a bad investment. They moved back east to live with relatives. She wrote for a while, then the letters stopped. He looked up, meeting Willa's sympathetic gaze. Probably for the best. I wasn't ready then to be the man she needed. And now? Willa asked softly. The question hung between them, loaded with unspoken implications. Adam broke eye contact, suddenly aware of how inappropriate this conversation had become. Now I know better than to make promises I can't keep, he said finally, standing abruptly. It's late. You should rest. 10 days after Willa's arrival, Marcus returned from Denver with troubling news. Adam rode to town immediately upon receiving word of his return, finding his friend in the back room of the store, exhausted from hard travel. I found Edward Hammond, Marcus confirmed, his expression grave. But Adam, he's not coming for her. Adam felt as though he'd been struck. What do you mean? Did you explain the danger? I explained everything, Marcus said, pouring himself a whiskey. He listened, asked questions to confirm it was indeed his wife I was describing. Then he told me that Victor had already contacted him weeks ago with evidence of her infidelity. Evidence? What evidence? Letters, apparently. Love letters between Willa and some man in St. Louis. Hammond showed them to me himself. Marcus took a long swallow of his drink. They seemed genuine, Adam. Hammond believes the child isn't his. Adam shook his head vehemently. Those letters are forgeries. Victor is trying to eliminate Willa and the baby from the Hammond family. Perhaps, Marcus conceded, but Edward believes them. He's filed for divorce and signed papers giving Victor authority to handle the matter however he sees fit. The implications chilled Adam to the bone. Victor has a free hand to deal with her, with no legal repercussions. I'm afraid so. Marcus reached into his coat and withdrew an envelope. Edward asked me to deliver this to her, said it explains everything. Adam took the envelope, its weight seemingly heavier than mere paper. Thank you for trying, Marcus. What will you do now? His friend asked. She can't stay hidden in that line shack forever, especially not with a baby coming. It was the question Adam had been avoiding. I don't know, he admitted, but I won't abandon her to Victor's justice. The ride back to the line shack was the longest of Adam's life. How could he deliver this news to Willa, whose faith in her husband had sustained her through this ordeal? The letter burned in his pocket like a hot coal. When he arrived, he found Pablo standing watch outside, his expression unusually tense. What is it? Adam asked immediately. The Senora, Pablo said quietly. The pains have started. Adam's heart raced. The baby, but it's too early. Sometimes fear and worry bring the little ones sooner, Pablo said with the wisdom of a man who had seen his share of births. She has been frightened, running, hiding. The baby feels this. Inside the shack, Adam found Willa lying on the bed, her face pale but composed. She tried to smile when she saw him. It seems your young guest is impatient to meet you, she said, before her face contorted with another contraction. Adam moved to her side, taking her hand. How far apart are the pains? Not very, she admitted. Pablo says the baby will come tonight. Adam squeezed her hand. You're strong, Willa, you can do this. Her eyes searched his face. Did your friend return? Did he find Edward? The question Adam had been dreading. He hesitated, then decided that this was no time for such devastating news. Yes, he found him. We'll talk about it after the baby comes. Relief washed over her features. I knew Edward would come. Once he knows where I am, we can, she broke off, gasping as another contraction seized her. Save your strength, Adam urged. Focus on bringing this child safely into the world. The hours that followed tested both of them. Willa's labor progressed rapidly, her body working efficiently despite the less than ideal circumstances. Pablo provided what assistance he could, boiling water and preparing clean linens, while Adam remained by Willa's side, offering encouragement and support. Near midnight, as a storm gathered outside, Willa's contractions reached their peak. It's coming, she gasped, gripping Adam's hand with surprising strength. The baby's coming now. With Pablo's guidance, Adam positioned himself to receive the child. Despite his earlier bravado about delivering livestock, the reality of helping bring a human life into the world filled him with awe and terror in equal measure. Push, he encouraged as Willa bore down with determination. That's it, I can see the head. With a final, tremendous effort, Willa delivered her child into Adam's waiting hands. The tiny girl slipped into the world with a lusty cry that filled the small cabin. A daughter, Adam announced, his voice thick with emotion as he wrapped the squirming infant in a clean cloth. You have a daughter, Willa. Tears streamed down Willa's face as Adam placed the baby in her arms. She's perfect, she whispered, examining the tiny features with wonder. Look at her, Adam. Isn't she beautiful? Adam found himself unable to speak past the lump in his throat. The child was indeed beautiful, with a dusting of dark hair and her mother's delicate features. As he watched Willa cradle her daughter, something shifted inside him, a protective instinct that extended now to both mother and child. After ensuring both were comfortable, Adam stepped outside to give Willa privacy to nurse. The storm had passed, leaving the night air crisp and clear, stars brilliant overhead. Pablo joined him, offering a cigarette which Adam declined. She named the child, Pablo said quietly. While you were washing up, she calls her Hope. Hope, Adam repeated. The name was painfully ironic given what he knew about Edward Hammond's betrayal. "What troubles you, amigo?" Pablo asked. "A birth is a joyous occasion." Adam took a deep breath. "Edward Hammond isn't coming. He believes the child isn't his." Victor convinced him of Willa's infidelity. Pablo's weathered face registered shock, then deep concern. "The Senora, this will break her heart." "I know." Adam looked back toward the cabin. "I couldn't tell her before the birth, but tomorrow." "Tomorrow will come soon enough," Pablo said wisely. "Tonight let her have this joy." Adam nodded in agreement, but as he returned to the cabin, the weight of what was to come pressed heavily upon him. Willa had fallen into an exhausted sleep, her daughter nestled against her breast. The scene was one of such peace and beauty that Adam's chest ached with emotions he dared not name. The next morning, Willa woke to find Adam sitting by her bedside, his expression grave. The baby slept peacefully in a makeshift cradle Pablo had constructed from a wooden box. "You look serious," she observed, trying to sit up. Adam helped arrange pillows behind her back. "How are you feeling? Sore, tired, happier than I've ever been." She smiled down at her sleeping daughter. "Isn't she perfect, Adam? Wait until Edward sees her. He'll know immediately that she's his. She has his nose, don't you think?" The moment had come. Adam took a deep breath. "Willa, there's something I need to tell you about Edward." Her smile faltered at his tone. "What is it? Is he hurt?" "No, he's not hurt, but—" Adam reached into his pocket and withdrew the envelope. "Marcus found him in Denver. He gave him this letter to bring to you." Willa took the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. "Why would he send a letter instead of coming himself?" "Read it," Adam said gently. "I'll give you privacy." "No," she said quickly. "Stay, please." Adam nodded and watched as she broke the seal and unfolded the paper. Her eyes moved across the page, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to devastation. "No," she whispered. "This can't be right. Edward wouldn't believe these lies." She looked up at Adam, her eyes filled with tears. "He says there are letters, love letters between me and another man, that the child, that hope isn't his." Her voice broke. "How could he believe that after everything we've shared?" Adam moved to sit beside her on the bed, taking her hand in his. "Victor is persuasive, and Edward is far away, unable to see for himself. He says he's filed for divorce," Willa continued, her voice hollow, "that he never wants to see me or the child again, that Victor will handle the situation." She crushed the letter in her fist. "What am I going to do? Where can I go?" The baby stirred, sensing her mother's distress. Willa gathered her close, tears falling onto the infant's blanket. "You'll stay here," Adam said with sudden resolve. "Both of you." Willa looked up, startled. "I can't impose on you further. You've already risked so much." "It's not an imposition," Adam insisted. "My ranch is large enough, and I can use the help. Pablo's not getting any younger." He tried to lighten the moment, but his eyes remained serious. "At least until you decide what you want to do next." Hope began to fuss, and Willa turned her attention to the baby, opening her nightgown to nurse. Adam respectfully averted his eyes, but not before noticing the tender way Willa cradled her daughter's head, murmuring soft words of reassurance despite her own broken heart. "Thank you," she said finally. "I don't know what I would have done without you, Adam." Those words stayed with him as he left the cabin to give her privacy. Outside, he found Pablo cutting wood. "She knows?" the older man asked. Adam nodded. "She's devastated but strong. I've told her they can stay." Pablo studied his employer with knowing eyes. "That is generous, patron." "But what will people say? A single man housing a divorced woman and her child." "I don't give a damn what people say," Adam replied firmly. "Victor Hammond is still looking for her. Until we're sure they're safe, they stay under my protection." Over the next 2 weeks, Willa regained her strength, and baby Hope thrived despite her early arrival. When she was strong enough, Adam helped them move from the line shack to the main cabin, where Willa quickly established herself as an efficient housekeeper and excellent cook. The domestic arrangement brought a warmth to Adam's home that had been missing since he'd established his ranch 10 years earlier. Coming in from a day's work to find a hot meal and a clean house, hearing Willa's soft voice as she sang to Hope, watching the baby grow stronger each day, these simple pleasures began to feel like treasures he'd never known he was missing. Yet Victor Hammond's threat loomed over them. Adam increased security around the ranch, and Pablo kept a constant watch for strangers. They heard through Marcus that Hammond had reduced the reward, but hadn't withdrawn it entirely, suggesting he hadn't given up the search. One evening in late November, as the first snows dusted the hills, Adam returned from checking his northern pasture to find Willa sitting on the porch, bundled against the cold, Hope sleeping in her arms. "You shouldn't be out in this weather," he chided gently, dismounting. "We needed fresh air," she replied with a smile, and the sunset was too beautiful to miss. Adam looked west, where the fading light painted the clouds in shades of gold and crimson. "It is at that," he agreed, coming to sit beside her on the porch step. They sat in comfortable silence, watching as the colors deepened, then faded to purple. "I received a letter today," Willa said finally, "from Edward's lawyer in Helena. The divorce is final." Her voice was steady, as though she had come to terms with this reality. "I am officially no longer Mrs. Hammond." Adam glanced at her, uncertain how to respond. "I'm sorry, don't be," she said, surprising him. "These past weeks have given me time to think, to remember." She looked down at her sleeping daughter. "Our marriage was comfortable, kind, but there was always something missing." She hesitated. Edward was a good man in many ways, but he was weak, too easily influenced by his family, especially Victor. Still, for him to abandon you and Hope without even seeing you. "It tells me everything I need to know about his character," Willa finished firmly. "And about what our life would have been like, always under Victor's thumb." She turned to face Adam. "I'm ready to move forward, to build a new life for Hope and myself." "Have you decided where you'll go?" Adam asked, trying to ignore the twist of dismay in his gut at the thought of them leaving. "I had thought perhaps San Francisco," she said carefully. "I could teach again, or perhaps Denver." Adam nodded, feeling a heaviness settle over him, both fine cities for a fresh start. "Yes," she agreed, "but lately I've been thinking, perhaps we don't need to go so far." She took a deep breath. "Unless you're eager to have your home to yourself again." Adam turned to her, hardly daring to hope he understood her meaning. "Willa, are you saying you'd consider staying here in Pine Ridge?" "Not in Pine Ridge," she clarified, meeting his gaze directly. "Here. On your ranch, with you." The world seemed to still around them as Adam absorbed her words. "With me," he repeated softly. "These past weeks have shown me what it means to be truly cared for," Willa continued, her voice gaining strength. "Not out of duty or family obligation, but from genuine concern. You've protected us, sheltered us, asked for nothing in return." Her cheeks flushed. "And I've come to care for you, Adam, deeply." Hope stirred in her arms, and Willa gently rocked her back to sleep before continuing. "I know it's forward of me to speak this way. I'm only just divorced with a newborn child. I have nothing to offer but myself and a future of uncertainty. If you don't feel—" Adam reached out and took her hand, stopping her words. "Willa," he said hoarsely, "having you and Hope here has made this place a home for the first time since I built it. The thought of you leaving." He shook his head, unable to fully express the emptiness such a prospect created. "Then we'll stay," she whispered, "if you're certain." "More certain than I've ever been about anything," Adam replied. He hesitated, then added, "But Victor Hammond is still a threat. He won't simply forget about you and Hope." "I know," Willa acknowledged, "but I refuse to live in fear of him. We'll be vigilant, but we'll also live our lives." She looked down at her daughter. "Hope deserves that. We all do." As if in response, Hope opened her eyes, regarding Adam with the solemn, unfocused gaze of a newborn. Without thinking, he reached out to stroke her cheek with his finger. The baby caught it in her tiny fist, holding on with surprising strength. "She knows who her protector is," Willa said softly. Adam felt something shift inside him, a certainty, a rightness he had never experienced before. "I want to be more than that," he said, "to both of you. If you'll give me time to prove myself worthy." "You already have," Willa assured him, leaning closer until her shoulder pressed against his. "Every day since you found me running through your pasture." The winter that followed was the happiest of Adam's life. As snow blanketed the Montana landscape, the three of them settled into a comfortable routine in the snug cabin. Willa's presence transformed the simple dwelling into a true home, with curtains at the windows and the constant smell of baking bread. Hope grew quickly, her personality emerging as she began to smile and coo at those around her. Word had spread through Pine Ridge about Adam's arrangement with the widowed Mrs. Zimmer, a fiction Marcus had helpfully circulated to explain her presence. Some tongues wagged, but most of the community accepted the story at face value. Victor Hammond had returned to the family estate near Helena, apparently having given up the active search for Willa and the child, though Adam remained wary of his influence. As spring approached, bringing with it new calves and the first wildflowers on the hills, Adam found himself contemplating a future he had never dared imagine. Each morning when he woke to find Willa in the kitchen, Hope in a basket nearby, he felt a contentment that seemed almost too perfect to last. One mild March day, as he and Pablo were repairing winter damage to the corral, a rider approached from the direction of town. Adam tensed, reaching instinctively for the rifle that was never far from his side these days. "It's Marcus," Pablo said, recognizing the visitor first. Adam relaxed slightly but noted the urgency in his friend's approach. "Something's wrong," he muttered, setting aside his tools. Marcus reined in his horse, his expression grave. "Adam, you need to get back to the house. Now, Willa, Hope." Adam's heart raced with sudden fear. "They're fine as far as I know," Marcus assured him quickly, "but Victor Hammond is in town. He's at the sheriff's office and they're preparing to ride out here." Adam's blood ran cold. "On what grounds?" "He's claiming Willa kidnapped the child, that it's his brother's legitimate heir, regardless of the divorce." Marcus dismounted, continuing urgently. "He's got papers from a judge in Helena granting him temporary guardianship of the infant until paternity can be established." "That's absurd," Adam growled. "Edward signed away any claim to Hope in the divorce." According to Hammond, Edward was temporarily insane with grief when he signed those papers. Now he wants his child back. Marcus shook his head in disgust. "It's all lies, of course, but the sheriff's going along with it." Adam was already running toward the house, calling over his shoulder, "Pablo, saddle the horses. Marcus, how much time do we have?" "An hour, maybe less," Marcus replied, hurrying after him. "They were gathering men when I slipped away to warn you." Inside the cabin, Adam found Willa at the table, Hope in her lap as she fed her mashed food from a small bowl. "Adam," Willa's smile faded as she took in his expression. "What's happened?" In terse sentences, Adam explained the situation, watching as fear and then determination crossed Willa's face. "They won't take her," she said fiercely, clutching Hope closer. "I won't let them." "Neither will I," Adam promised, "but we need to leave, now." He moved quickly to a floorboard near the fireplace, prying it up to reveal a small strongbox. From it, he took a canvas bag that clinked with the sound of coins. "Where will we go?" Willa asked, already moving to gather essential items for Hope. "West," Adam decided, "to Oregon. I have connections there, people who will help us establish ourselves under different names if necessary." Willa paused in her preparations. "Your ranch, everything you've built here." Adam crossed to her, taking her face gently between his hands. "None of it matters without you and Hope. We'll build something new together." Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded resolutely. "Together," she echoed. Within 30 minutes, they had packed what they could carry on horseback: clothes, food, the money from Adam's strongbox, and precious few mementos. Pablo arrived with 3 saddled horses, including the gentle mare Willa had ridden from the line shack months earlier. "I'll stay," Pablo offered. "Tell them you went north toward Canada." Adam clasped his friend's shoulder. "That's too dangerous. They might not believe you didn't help us escape." "Then I will disappear too," Pablo said with a shrug. "My cousin has a ranch near the border. I will go there for a time." As they prepared to depart, Marcus approached with a bundle. "Something for the journey," he said, handing it to Willa. Inside was a small revolver. "Just in case," he added grimly. Adam helped Willa mount, then carefully handed Hope up to her. The baby was securely wrapped in a sling across Willa's chest, protected from the spring chill. "We'll head west through the high country," Adam told Marcus and Pablo. "Less chance of being followed that way." Marcus nodded. "I'll spread word that I saw you heading north when the sheriff asks." With final embraces and promises to send word when safe, Adam, Willa, and Hope set off, riding west toward the distant mountains. They had barely reached the tree line when the sound of approaching riders echoed from the opposite direction. "They're early," Adam muttered, urging their horses deeper into the forest. From their elevated position, they could see Sheriff Davis leading a group of 6 men, including Victor Hammond, toward the cabin. Adam felt a pang as he watched them approach the home he had built with his own hands, knowing he might never see it again. But as he looked at Willa, her face set with determination despite her fear, hope nestled securely against her, he knew without doubt that he had made the right choice. "No regrets?" he asked softly. Willa reached across the space between their horses to take his hand. "None," she assured him. "My home is with you now, wherever that may be." They rode hard for 3 days, following game trails and old trapper paths through the mountains, always alert for signs of pursuit. Adam's knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable as he led them through passes and valleys rarely traveled by those unfamiliar with the region. On the 4th night, they made camp in a sheltered ravine beside a clear stream. Hope, remarkably adaptable for an infant, had settled into the rhythm of travel, sleeping contentedly in the sling during the day and curled between Adam and Willa at night. As they sat beside the small fire, Hope sleeping nearby, Willa voiced the concern that had been growing in her mind. "How long will we need to run? Will Victor ever give up?" Adam poked at the embers, considering. Men like Victor Hammond hate to lose, but he also has business interests, political ambitions. Eventually, the cost of pursuing us will outweigh whatever satisfaction he might gain from finding us. "Unless it's not about satisfaction," Willa said quietly. "What if it's about the Hammond legacy, an heir to carry on the family name?" "Hope is a girl," Adam pointed out. "Hardly the male heir most men like Hammond obsess over." "True," Willa acknowledged, "and with the divorce." She sighed, leaning against Adam's shoulder. "I just want her to be safe, to grow up without looking over her shoulder." "She will," Adam promised, wrapping an arm around her. "In Oregon, we'll be Adam and Willa Lawson with our daughter Hope. No one will question it." Willa looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Adam and Willa Lawson," she repeated softly. "I like the sound of that." The moment hung between them, filled with unspoken feelings that had grown stronger with each passing day. Slowly, Adam bent his head toward hers, giving her time to pull away if she wished. But Willa met him halfway, her lips finding his in a kiss that began gently, then deepened with months of longing finally expressed. When they separated, both slightly breathless, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said simply. "I think I have since that first day when you looked up at me from the grass with such determination in your eyes." "I love you too," Willa whispered. "More than I thought possible after everything that happened. You gave me hope when I had none, gave us both a future." Adam took her hand in his. "When we reach Oregon, when we're safe, will you marry me, Willa? Make what we're pretending to be real." Tears spilled onto her cheeks as she nodded. "Yes," she breathed. "Nothing would make me happier." 2 weeks later, they crossed into Oregon territory, the majestic Columbia River marking the boundary of their new beginning. Adam led them to a small settlement where an old army friend of his father's had established a trading post years earlier. Richard Cooper welcomed them without questions, offering shelter and assistance in finding land to purchase. With the money Adam had brought, they were able to secure a promising parcel with good water and timber, situated in a valley protected by rolling hills reminiscent of the Montana ranch Adam had left behind. True to their plan, they presented themselves as husband and wife, though Adam insisted on making it official as soon as possible. They were married by a traveling preacher in Richard's front room, with Hope gurgling happily in Richard's wife Martha's arms during the brief ceremony. "I've waited for this moment since I first held you in my arms," Adam whispered as they exchanged simple vows. "And I've waited since you said those words that saved my life," Willa replied softly. "You'll have protection here. Little did I know you were offering not just safety, but a home. A family, a love I never imagined possible." As summer turned to autumn, Adam and Willa worked side by side to build their new home, a sturdy cabin with extra rooms for the family they both hoped would grow in the coming years. Hope thrived in the clean Oregon air, learning to crawl and then pull herself up on furniture, her dark curls and bright eyes drawing admiring comments from neighbors who had no idea of the journey that had brought her to this peaceful valley. On Hope's first birthday, as they celebrated with a small cake Martha had helped bake, Adam presented Willa with a gift, the deed to their land, officially registered in both their names. "No one can take this from us," he said as she examined the document. "It's ours, free and clear." Willa set the paper aside and pulled him close. "Thank you for giving us this life," she murmured against his chest, "for being the kind of man who would risk everything to protect a stranger and her unborn child." "Not strangers anymore," Adam said, lifting Hope into his arms. The little girl immediately reached for his face, patting his cheeks with her small hands in a gesture that never failed to melt his heart. Family, now and always. As they stood together in the home they had built, surrounded by the life they had chosen, Willa thought back to that desperate day when she had run through tall grass, certain that her future and her child's were forfeit. How different the world looked now, not because the danger had disappeared entirely. They still maintained caution, still used Adam's army contacts to monitor news from Montana, but because she had found something stronger than fear. Love that would stand against any threat, hands that would always reach out to protect, a heart that had become her true home. "Now and always," she echoed, standing on tiptoe to kiss her husband as their daughter giggled between them. "That's a promise worth running for." Years passed and the Lawson ranch prospered. Hope grew into a spirited young girl with her mother's determination and her father's kind heart. She was joined by two brothers, James and Thomas, who filled the cabin with boyish energy and laughter. Word eventually reached them through Richard's contacts that Victor Hammond had died in a riding accident in 1880. With him went any lingering threat to their family, allowing Adam and Willa to finally release the last shadows of vigilance they had maintained all those years. On warm summer evenings, they would sit on their porch, watching their children play in the yard as the sun set over the western hills. Sometimes, Willa would think back to that fateful day when a desperate run through Montana grasslands had led her to the man who would become her everything. "Any regrets?" Adam would sometimes ask, reading her thoughtful expression. And always, Willa would shake her head, leaning into his embrace with absolute certainty. "Not one," she would reply. "Every step led me exactly where I was meant to be."